We just received the puzzle, part of it. Antoine's gonna have to assemble it. There's like 2 parts to it. I can't be a part of that because then there might be some spoilers, but I wanted to uncrate it. This is crazy too. It came with, I don't know if we can show this over here. This is a sensor. Oh, this thing is tall. Wow. I mean, that's good enough.
Yeah, but if we have to...
Hold it back.
If we have to...
Send it back?
Yeah. Just in case?
There's no way I'm sending this back.
I know, but better safe than sorry, right?
I got you, Antoine. You're gonna fix it. You're gonna have to learn to be a fine furniture craftsman.
Cool. Yeah.
A puzzle crafter.
Thanks, thanks YouTube.
Yeah, let's just break it. Go. Ready? Boom! Well, looking at it right now, it's all wrapped up.
So we're not supposed to live by the crown. There's a place where...
Yeah. There's like 60, 70 pounds. This is exciting. I don't want to look into it too much. I want to have a... I'm very curious. I mean, kind of want to see it. I want to know what it looks like. Doesn't look damaged at all, which is good, but apparently there are a lot of internal parts that might be sensitive, which is why you couldn't tip it. Looks like it's been tipped. Antoine with surgical procedures. Should I get out of your way and let you set this up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'll be in my office. Let me know when it's done. Excited!
You ready? Holy.
Youth. Oh, didn't see you there. Welcome back. Today, we're gonna be looking inside a $40,000 puzzle, as well as talking to Craig Thibodeau, who created this puzzle along with Robert Yager. And we're gonna get to some of the mechanics, some of the genius mechanics that he had to invent for this puzzle to even be possible. And to do that, to see how this is made, well, take a look here. Underneath the chalice, by the way, brass chalice, 24 karat plated gold. So are these. These are all 24 karat plated gold. I didn't know this. Craig informed me. Under this chalice, we have a key. And this key is actually the key to opening this. So underneath, hidden, is a compartment. You won't be able to see it on camera, but I can place it. Now it's right about there. If I turn that about 15 degrees this way, it now. Opens up the door. That's the key right there. Isn't that cool? Let's have a look at the inside and let's see what makes this thing tick. How did you feel about the video?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I did. I really liked it. The intro was awesome.
Thanks.
I heard you talk about it on your podcast, and it was like, okay, this sounds like it's going to be really cool. Before you get all official, what do you actually think of the piece?
I love the piece. For me, what I love the most about it, and what I was telling everybody here, is that I'm happy it doesn't have 100 steps. So although some people might have wanted more steps because of, you know, for the video's sake, for like the length of the solve, which for me is irrelevant for this piece. For me, it's all about something that I can showcase and show people. So Craig, I'm gonna ask you just basically to run me through the process of R&D.
A lot of that was back and forth design work with Robert. We've been collaborating for a couple of years now. Well, actually like 4 years now. And typically the design process starts with me coming up with the shape and size of the object. And then he and I will brainstorm back and forth to figure out how to fit the required mechanisms inside. This one was a little bit different because the required mechanism was really experimental.
Yeah.
I had no idea exactly how it would work until I was way into building it, and it kept needing alterations and adjustments and upgrades and changes. But there's just a lot of back and forth brainstorming. You know, he'll send me a sketch, I'll send him a sketch back. We'll go through, you know, pages and pages of email, and eventually we get to a point where I think I understand what we're doing well enough to start building it.
I don't know if you have your video on hand or if you know it by heart, but if you can walk us through the sort of steps and what those steps do on the inside of the puzzle.
Yeah, I know the video well enough. I've been playing with this thing for a while now. So initially when you grab the glass, nothing happens when you initially just touch the glass. It's connected to the carriage that holds up the cup with magnets. So there's no physical connection between the ring on the bottom of the glass and the carriage itself. So as soon as you rotate it or lift it up, the carriage drops because it's just being held by the magnets.
When this thing goes up and into its place, it locks with the magnets that are holding it right there. So that's now locked into place. The magnets are holding this whole mechanism up, and the second it drops, it's going to fall with gravity down through this pipe here. What's going to stop it, and this is really interesting, is this here, this little piston. See how it's air controlled? And the harder you push, the slower it goes. It's actually going to slow it down so that it doesn't come crashing down onto any of this. Now, what's really interesting is right now the iris is open. Once that goes down, this here, by pulling on this lever, is going to shut that iris. As soon as the cup goes through the hole, it's going to hit this at a precise location so that it then closes that iris. Have a look here.
The iris starts closing just before the cup clears it, so there's a little bit of clearance between the cup and the iris, but the idea was to have it look like the cup just cleared the iris.
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
It fell onto here, which then closes the iris instantaneously, but also gets stopped by this here and holds that into position. Here you can see the actual magnets. So these little brass things right here, those are the actual locations of the magnets, which are also somewhere hidden within this woodwork.
From there, the sliding pieces on the top, there's the first brass piece that slides up. That doesn't do anything internally, but then as you slide the two wooden pieces next to it to the left, you get access to that little brass door with a key behind it. And behind that key is the little spring-loaded button. Again, it's not really doing anything inside except unlocking that corner drawer that has the other part of the key in it.
Right.
And then you can see in the back of that little compartment, there's a keyhole that actually unlocks the rotating carriage.
Right.
So up until that point, all of the internal stuff is just sitting, waiting for you.
Got you.
Once you've unlocked the carriage, you can start it rotating. And that's when everything down at the bottom starts happening. So the carriage is connected through pulleys and cables on essentially a lazy Susan ring, so it'll rotate around. It's connected all the way down to the bottom, what I call the motor of the piece, which is that carriage that switches left and right. So you go down through these pulleys to a winding mechanism, which is the very forward right set of gears. And it's got essentially like a one-way bicycle gear on it, so you can wind it and then it freewheels back.
You hear that? It sounds like like a bicycle. When you pedal and then you let go in the back is kind of what's happening here. It's locking into place. Right.
And that connects to that motor carriage, and every time you wind the upper assembly, you're winding that lower gear about 6
Yeah,
inches.
which is why you hear those sounds sort of engage and then disengage, like you said, like a bicycle, where the wheels are going backwards.
As you're doing that, you're winding up what's called a spring motor. It's essentially like a super high-tech tape measure. It's a flat coil spring, a double version of a flat coil spring. This particular one, I think it pulls with 7.5 pounds of force. So you're winding that motor up and winding the cable around that next set of gears that's on the carriage.
Right.
And the clicking you hear is actually a ratchet and pawl that's locking the motor in so it can't wind down.
Right.
And you probably noticed as you were winding the top rotating piece that you got to a certain point and it stopped clicking. And it would just kind of freely move a little bit. That's because there's a slip clutch, a mechanical slip clutch in that first shaft that keeps you from over pulling the wire that's attached to the spring motor.
Right.
So it's got about 7.6 pounds of force on it. So as you pull, if you get past that 7.5 pounds of force that the spring motor needs, it means you fully loaded the spring.
Yeah, basically a fail-safe.
And pretty much, it keeps you from destroying the spring again by pulling the
over
cable
rotating.
too hard.
Yeah.
Yep. From there, you've got all the stuff at the top essentially done, and you move down to the bottom. And all of those bottom parts you see when you look inside, they're actually all connected.
Yeah.
So the stuff on the back and the stuff on the front, it's all tied together internally. So you start off by removing that front brass piece, which gives you access to the switch.
Yep.
And you can move the switch at that point, and that shifts the carriage, the motor, essentially from one side, the winding side, over so it connects to the lead screw.
To the lifting
and now
side.
it's in the lifting position. Yep.
Right.
So at that point, you can turn that front left foot, and that unlocks the sliding front piece at the bottom left.
Yep.
That's connected to the very back piece with a brass rod through the center. So then you go around to the back piece, and you can push in the one movable piece of wood and slide the piece of brass to the left on the back. And then you can pull out the corner block, and that's just a cable tensioner, that corner block in the back. So it's tied to the release button up at the top. And the release button won't do anything unless you pull that cable.
Unless there's enough tension for it to be pulled.
Yep, and that little 1 inch of movement is enough to put just the right amount of tension on. And the cables, you'll see, they're pretty small, but they're all pre-stretched cables, and they're high-load cables. They're rated to 250 pounds.
Right, so they're not going anywhere.
Only pulling 2 pounds.
Yeah.
But they're all pre-stretched cables, so they're not going to stretch over time. But the idea there was that you would have to unlock everything at the bottom before you could start to release the motor.
Right.
And the motor will only release after you move the switch over.
Right.
So you switch the carriage over, it puts a little bit of tension on the cable. You pull out that corner piece and it puts a little bit more tension on the cable, and that's just enough that when you push the button, you're releasing that pawl, the locking pawl on the drive gear. It engages the carriage and the carriage goes up.
And now it should be good to go. So I'm going to flip the switch back into position. With the press of a button and a pull of a lever back here, should go all the way up.
Pieces like this one for you, they were more interesting than just doing the puzzle stuff because it's kind of got what feels like magic in it. The way the cup disappears and comes back, it's kind of a mix of the two, and it feels like there's a little bit of magic in there and a little bit of puzzle. And that to me seems more interesting than just the puzzle stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's, how the hell did you do that?
I mean, for me, it's just seeing this idea of the Holy Grail. Like, I'm a big fan of like Indiana Jones, National Treasure, you know, all of that genre. Obviously a big fan of that. So to have something which was just an idea of this Grail, and then for it to be better than I ever thought it would be, I'll be honest. It's miles ahead of what I thought it would be, and it's incredible. For me to see that in person is just surreal. That and being able to sort of create this little story around it, I mean, that's just, you know, that's just the best. Well, would you, if anyone ever commissioned this, would you build it again?
No. No. I don't want to build again, but I don't really want to build most of this stuff a second time. I want to build something different every time.
Something new. Well, Craig, I'll be in touch and hopefully get something put on your plate in the next 3 years. Craig, thanks so much for everything, man. It's been a journey, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Where can people find your stuff? Just on YouTube? You want me to link the YouTube?
YouTube, Instagram, CT Fine Furniture. It's the same everywhere.
Perfect.
Anywhere. And thank you for commissioning such a cool piece. It was just a pleasure to build. It was challenging and nerve-wracking, but that was kind of what made it fun.
Well, you're the only person who could do it. I firmly believe that.
Maybe at this point. Maybe the only one that would want to.
All right, thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.